Hey guys, what's going on? So I finally decided I'm gonna sit down and do a real review of Cassandra. Before we start, I do want to mention that we do have a small Discord community room thing. I'm going to be leaving that in the comments below. Going to pin the Discord link. I know there's a Discord for General King's Raid, but I will be hanging out there more often. The link I'm going to be leaving in the comments, I mean. I did a sort of overview on the same day she came out, but it's been a while since then. I have gotten her to T4, and she has been my main healer since I got her. I see many people on the subreddit and elsewhere, either in my comment section or whatever, asking about her healing capabilities, many thinking she's only to be used in Arena, and no way she can be a PvE healer. So I'm here to argue that. Firstly, she doesn't need to be T4 to be a good PvE healer. She doesn't even need to be T2 outside of the general priest perks. I've built mine to boost DPS rather than more healing. Taking a look at my Transcendence perks first of all, you can see she takes the attack perk at T1, the crit boost at T2, the higher attack boost at T3, and the attack speed boost when healing at T4. Alternatively, you can take the 1% HP healed per second at T2, and another 1% HP healed per second while the attack boost is up, but I feel like she doesn't need it. Maybe it's the rest of my team not really needing the heal as much, or her burst heal every 8 seconds being able to sustain my team well enough. Her T5 dark buff seems pretty useless even in Arena. 3 seconds of damage immunity to a random hero? No thanks. Does anything even happen in 3 seconds? Are they even finished running to the center of the stage? With that out of the way, let's go through her kit. So her first skill isn't only a heal, that's something I actually want to get across as well. It's a damaging skill, it's a CC in the form of silence for 2.5 seconds, and it's a heal, and at T4 it's an attack speed buff for 5 seconds. A pretty packed skill if you ask me. For this demonstration, we're taking this clause here. He has some pretty solid gear on him with a little over 3.6 million HP. Sure, he could have more with a better orb, but not so much that it's going to make a huge difference in this demonstration. He will also have an extra 20% not shown here in the stats because of this pumpkin, but that will take effect in battle. He does not take the HP perk here, he takes the physical defense perk, so that's also something to keep in mind. But this is generally how I have my claws.
Bright as a flower. Bright as a flower.
As far as this skill in Arena is concerned, it's quite good as well, obviously. Not as good as Leo's silence, of course, since his is almost guaranteed to work, since it also removes buffs. I guess the only thing that would stop his is if the CC resist on the other side stopped it. Taking a look at her second skill, I think it's okay. Not as good at in-game when you have everyone in perfect gear, but still quite nice. It does boost your team's crit by 700 or 70%, while also giving an attack buff. If you choose the perk at T3 for heal over time, they will also have a small amount of healing. If you have burst damage dealers like Luna, you can build her around this buff by foregoing crit in her substats and doing her skills after Cassandra casts this buff. Of course, it's not quite as good when you're autoing because then, you know, they'll do what they want when they want. I personally think this skill does need a rework, either to have 100% uptime, because as it is now, with the skill animations stopping the cooldowns, yet the buffs keep counting down until they're gone, it only has maybe about a 50% uptime or so. So I think the duration needs to be buffed significantly, or to lower the crit chance buff and up the attack buff, because like maybe having, I don't know, 300 crit buff with a much higher attack buff would be good, because her crit buff currently, when you have a priest with her T2 perk, Everyone else's base crit is pretty much going to be enough, so you don't have to build crit at all on the substats, as a rune, anywhere. And I mean, you probably could build a sort of in-game team around that, but it's never going to be that efficient, especially when it's not at a 100% uptime. So yeah, as it is now, at in-game, when you want your DPS to have 100% crit after buffs are considered, it's basically only a soft counter to Luna's S3 in Arena, and a pretty modest attack buff. And now her third skill, which is actually the reason I bought her in the first place. Honestly, I never actually use it in Arena. Maybe I should use it more, but the fact it's a single hit on a single target is a bit of a turnoff. It's a bit of a gamble, actually. If the DPS happens to have a CC resist or dispel artifact equip, I've basically wasted the skill. One way to combat that is to do an area-wide CC first, like Luna's S3, then charm, but that would only work in the case of the Talisman of Resistance. The one redeeming quality of it though is that it does do massive damage. The few times I did try it, it either killed the DPS or did significant damage to them, so I will be trying it here and there over the next few days. As for PvE, it's not worth 4 mana orbs, ever. So it's usually not used unless I'm overflowing. Again, it does do decent damage and even more so in PvE, but only to one target. That's the thing, yeah. And finally, her passive skill. This is probably the main reason she's more for Arena than not. This allows the first skill she casts to be used at 2 less mana. This means she can insta-silence, insta-damage, and insta-cast an attack speed buff. This is what I've taken a liking to since I also bring Nyx with me, and attack speed is quite important for him to quickly get the blade stacks up. This also means that her crit/attack buff only takes 1 mana and her charm only takes 2. Along with that, you get a pretty nifty defense buff for 5 to 10 seconds, which are typically the most important seconds in an arena battle, if they even go over that. I've experimented with her T3 perk quite a lot actually, switching from 5 extra seconds of this buff to 20% less damage for those 5 seconds, and eventually landed on the attack buff for now since I do use her everywhere, and not just arena. In PvE, specifically story stages, her passive helps a bit too, as there are 3 to 4 stages in each map, and this skill does get reset for each of them. In something like World Boss and Guild Raid, it is pretty useless as it only procs once. As for her unique weapon, it's not needed, but it does help to keep the tank topped off in the event of an unlucky non-crit heal. It also helps her heal more due to being able to have some attack runes thrown in. If you want to run her as your main healer, she does need to be built like a DPS with crit damage, attack, and attack speed. She doesn't really need penetration since her role is to heal, but if you feel it's needed, you can give her 1 line of lifesteal. Although in my experience, with a big bursty attack from the enemy, she's still more tanky than the DPS and is alive longer than they are. With all that being said, she isn't a main healer for all content, but you definitely can use her as one. She's been my main healer since I got her when she first came out. Chapter 7 Hell Mode was finished with her, Tower of Ordeals is beaten each week with her, and I'm currently very close to beating Tower of Challenge level 65 with her. The only problem there is damage. I got Ricardo down to 400k HP before he double raged and wiped everyone out.
If only I was younger.
Where next?
She's also the main healer in many Black Dragon runs, ranging from level 72 to level 74.
Now time for high tension. Bright as a flower. Fighting for me.
We also do have Kaula, but he's used as an emergency heal in the event that the dragon does his Black Flame Breath attack. I haven't touched hard raids yet, and I'm pretty sure most in EU haven't either, so I can't speak for that. I honestly think she wouldn't have a place there, however. For World Boss, I do bring her and Frey as healers. Frey is for her shield, of course, and Cassandra is for the AoE heal. Again, it's enough to keep them topped off. The only time someone will die is because of one shot, which is eventually inevitable. Kaula is, of course, better, especially with one of his trans perks that reduce damage while healing, and also the fact he heals multiple times over a few seconds rather than doing one large burst. And also he has a nice CC for the World Boss bar that Cass doesn't have. So yes, Cass isn't recommended for World Boss, but she does get the job done. Same story with Guild Raid, don't need to say more on that. Basically, I made this video to show that Cass is viable outside of Arena, as I've seen a lot question her healing capabilities. Her heals are good, but she doesn't bring all that much utility to the table besides her crit/attack buff, which, since we now have Mediana, is probably outclassed by that in terms of a damage buff, except maybe in larger scale places like raids and world boss. But yeah, that'll do it for the Cassandra review. If you have any questions or whatnot, you can leave them down in the comments below. If you want any more information regarding my opinions, or if you happen to disagree, then you can leave that down there as well. Leaving a like would also be greatly appreciated if you did happen to enjoy. Thanks, as always, for watching, and until next time. And as always, a huge thanks to my supporters over on Patreon.